Hello. Oh,
Everyone,
forgot my mic.
we can't forget the mic. We got to hear what's going on.
Sorry.
This is going to be an interesting topic because I think we're gonna get into some really. I apologize. Well, I get the
TikTok.
the TikTok up so we can kind of see what's going on
Yeah.
and hear some questions if you have them.
Yes. So happy Friday, guys. Hope
Friday
you can
Live. Here we go. There we are. Sitting here looking
Good.
down. Okay, and I could kind of moderate from here.
Yes.
So, good afternoon. It's Friday once again. We're here. We're back at it. And one of the things that it's an interesting time indeed.
Uh-huh.
What do you think? It's an
Yeah.
interesting time.
It is. It is 2025.
Has it been a crazy year or what? And I think it's going to get a little bit crazier because what we're going to be talking about today is the topic. A lot of people in the industry, you go in forums and groups, and we're part of a lot of groups and forums, and we hear a lot of questions and like a lot of frustration about where things are going in terms of the industry, and like a lot of people have really kind of taken issue with it. Some people say it's great, other people say it's horrible. But the industry is like everything else in the world is changing, and it's changing rapidly. And there's a few reasons for that. But you're going to go over a couple of questions, and we're going to kind of go back and forth. If you have a question, feel free to ask. But the industry is in a state of change, and I think there's going to be some big things. I think into the next year. And let's get to the bottom of it. One of this has to do with the fact that we are at levels in the real estate business that take us back to 1995 in terms of overall volume of sales. And that's always has an impact because most of the time real estate involves volume as part of their business model. And all these other factors are contributing to the stress levels being a lot higher than they've been in a long time. But we're going to get to these questions. If you have a question, because I do have some interesting topics about what the future is going to look like. And I think I've been a good predictor of a lot of things. And if you go through my course of my time in real estate, from the .com era to creating a .com to I've kind of predicted what the future kind of has in store. But we'll get into those questions.
Yes.
And let's get into it, Keri. So what do we got here going on?
Yeah, so one of the first questions that I have for you is about the NAR compensation law.
Yeah.
How does the new NAR buyer broker compensation law affect home buyers and their agents?
Okay. So obviously this year, the first time in a long time, the whole entire structure of MLS has changed for the better, for the worse, for some people. It doesn't make a difference. For other people, it does make a significant difference. One of the things was that the buyer was not responsible for paying the commission in the past. Now, to a certain degree, it has impacted buyers, agents to say, okay, can we offer a commission or not? And I think that's one of the things, like moving into this year, a lot of agents had a lot of difficult time grasping and saying. So the deals that are happening right now are basically still happening through an arrangement with the seller. So if buyers aren't being compensated, if buyers agents aren't being compensated, I feel like then, it's the onus is on them to prove value. And this has been a little bit, I think it's particularly hard, although we've had some new agents here who've been very successful at it, is that they have to discuss these things like as part of their, what are they going to be doing for you as a buyer's agent? It has to be discussed, and like what you're doing to advance their strategy in determining a value for what they're about to purchase. And it's not easy. But a lot of it's impacting home buyers because the home buyers feel like they're going to get the best deal through the agent who's listing the property as it is. And there's all these programs like Zillow and everything else that do not vet the buyer's agents through to the listing agent. There's other companies that have vetted it so it goes directly to the listing agent. A lot of things are changing. And this really hasn't played out in full. We'll see how it goes in the next few months. But it's going to mean value propositions. And I hate to say this, this isn't even for sales agents. I don't know if they think, some people think sales agents think, like, I mean, on the sell side, people who are representing sellers or doing the listing side of the business have benefited from mutual cooperation through buyer compensation. So they have buyers, people, there are agents that do work with considerable amounts of buyers. And it's a different way of doing business. There's two very different ways of doing business in this business. So do not assume that like every agent is operating in the same capacity. You know, you can go to a hospital and see people with lab coats, and not everybody's doing the same job.
Yeah.
And there are differences, and I think that's one of the things that's probably the most misunderstood part. So it is impacting the home buyer and their agent as to who to use. And that could be a long-winded conversation, and we're going to get to. So I want to get to all the structural things.
Okay. Let's talk about the technology
Yes.
aspect. How is AI expected to impact real estate transactions and market predictions?
I won't say it. We already know. If this is one of the AI is revolutionizing everything, and I think I still feel about 75% of agents have no idea what's going on when it comes to this specific piece. They're used to a certain way of doing business. It kind of, I mean, I hate to say it's like the age of the typewriter. Yeah, we're gonna move that way. So we're gonna we don't get as much. Our floor is a little bit uneven.
Yeah. All right.
But one of the things with AI is that it's changed everything. Predictive market analytics is something I've worked through and worked on, and it's really interesting stuff because I do think that predictive analytics is letting us know like how market indicators may be pointing based on the data we input into it, and then getting a breakdown of where this may be going and may not. So it'll take things like we've talked about, you heard me use the term divergence, right?
Yes.
Divergence, and we talk about changes in the market now that are very rapid, much more rapid than in the past. So a lot of people will price things or structure pricing of a house, maybe where things like kind of took 6 months to kind of like turn and like say, oh, prices come down. We go week to week, and that could substantially change. We've seen it. I've seen it happen a number of times where it's substantially changed.
Is that you? Yeah.
He's a big kid.
Hi.
That's where it's substantially changed in terms of like where I do think where like agents will understand how the market should be moving based on the latest data sets that are available, and there's multitudes of them. So I've taken some layered data from different parts of the country. We layer it in different, like when we talk about layer, it's like, I know when some people say layered analytics, which is, let's just say the Midwest, Northeast, Southeast, and then we look at like average time on the market in each of these areas, because like a lot of times we can get a good indicator about what's going to happen in the Northeast by looking at the Southeast first, okay? Because history, and the AI will understand that history has kind of preceded that those markets where the markets are generally weaker in the past kind of, so like you look at the Vegases, you look at like the Southwest, in Phoenix during the financial crisis, these are markets that kind of not seeing as much. They saw more volatility in pricing than the Northeast, but they were precursors for what was going to happen here. So it may have happened there first. It will happen there second. The thing with layered analytics is that we're able to take multiple data sets, past, present, and it will give us a future based on, and as obviously these models get more sophisticated, and I hate to say operating them does require a level of sophistication. So operating this stuff is not the easiest. Some people think, oh, it's like, because when you're plugging in data sets, which I've done, and then, but they're all getting better, and they're consistently getting better. But that's one of the advantages, like we have over, like, to help agents kind of succeed, is to understand the analytics. Obviously, we provide live information every week, which actually goes into the analytics on a localized basis. But the layered data analytics now could suggest on a specific property exactly what may happen. So yeah, it's there. It's already begun. The question really becomes is your adaptability to the use of the technology to be successful at it. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I just want to make sure my mic is actually turned up toward me.
Yes. Do you find any useful AI tools to help you real estate agents?
Yes, but that's something we'll leave to the in-house people.
Yeah.
But no, we find a lot. I mean, not to be. I mean, obviously, you could DM me, and I'll definitely help with that. The other things is that what I consider to be proprietary, meaning that this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you do something well, don't give it away for free. No, but I'm not saying that with 100%. But it does take ChatGPT is obviously the biggest player in the game, and there's others emerging. The real question isn't the tool itself. Okay, I think it's the understanding about how to utilize, and that's what agents themselves talk about. Tools are only as good as your ability to use them, and use them. And I hate to say this, you're not going to be able to use a tool that you don't use often. So a lot of times what happens with agents is they fail to understand it's a necessity. There's no doubt about it's a necessity. And you know me, I'm on it ad nauseum. And doing all sorts of crazy stuff that it takes a little bit of skill set to understand. I'm not going to tell you right off the bat that it's that simple, but it's changed the way you're doing business. It's going to change, and if nobody's on board with what's going on, it will run you completely over. It's definitely it's doing some amazing stuff. The real question, I think, for AI in terms of is, could it displace people in this business? And the answer is, yeah. I definitely see that this could be a very disruptive technology in terms of being able to. I have Gab do something with AI the other day. She was like, "This is crazy," but we could do like these wild things. And she's like, we had to do something for a buyer. She had a buyer that contacted her, and we kind of like had to grab some multiple data for somebody, and we were able to do that in seconds, where it take hours.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, from the creative side, look how much has changed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a creative arts degree. You have a digital media arts, right?
Yeah.
And look how much has changed there.
I know. I can't even imagine like what that class would look like right now, like in college, because of this.
Do you think it's going to? I mean, it's going to change the university structure. It's got to, right?
Yeah, I could definitely.
It's not like you sit like no. Yeah, I hate to say the art game, and like just the putting together even like things like Canva, right? Like they like put together these things that like
I know they do a good job.
You're supposed to say that. You're supposed to tell me, Anthony, I design everything myself. But anyway, but it's yeah. Well, you do a good job with Canva, so that's
Yeah.
why we'll leave it at that. But the big thing is it's changed so many things.
Yeah.
Um, Even in terms of like how we communicate. I mean, we have developed more tools for buyers in the last year just using artificial intelligence just to do our like our backgrounds on like different neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
I
The
mean,
neighborhood videos that
it's just
you put together.
yeah. I mean, these are things. Obviously, there's still a human element to them, but like at one time it was like very plain, and now it's like it's robust, and
Yeah.
they're getting even crazier. They're working on a few things, and it
Yeah.
keeps getting. If you go through the spot, if you go through our YouTube channel over time, you can actually see this kind of transpire. But I mean, these are things that are changing the world, and I do think. But what it's going to mean for agents is going to change a lot. So if you have a question about that specifically, feel free to ask.
Have you seen any like virtual reality like home stuff? Like home tours maybe? Like 3D
Um,
immersive?
yeah, immersive video. I do think is the next paradigm for real estate. Meaning, I told you about you. Remember the thing I told you about the walls of your house?
Yeah.
Now picture like you could make your space inside your house look completely different than what it is. The wallpaper, it's almost like a paper
Oh,
that goes over your walls, and you can make your own reality. And that's
that's cool.
insane to think about in terms of like where we've gone. It's like I want to be in Paris. I want to wake up in Paris in the middle of under the Eiffel Tower,
Yeah.
and literally your bed will appear.
Yeah.
Picture like looking up at your ceiling and seeing the bottom of the Eiffel Tower as you look up,
Imagine.
and then you look at the walls and
And I'm just here.
yeah, and you're really in your room.
Yeah.
And you could, it's already being done. I did a thing where like we had some floor things that like the floors where like it looks like fish
Yeah.
swimming. Like there'll be the tiles that it could be laid down are actually immersive. That it looks like you would be standing on a pond.
Yeah.
You literally walking on water. But it's crazy to think what's going on. Like,
Yeah. You wanna know what would be cool if you could like just even change the color of your walls. Like if you're bored of the wall color,
I mean,
you could just make it
wall
like
color is not even going to be a
pink.
thing. Just the atmosphere. You change, but and this is it's.
Yeah.
But the big thing is that we've seen in the course, it's got to be just 2 years. Is insane.
Yeah.
It is apps. It's and I think for regular people who just kind of don't pay attention to what's going on, I am just I think it keeps me up at night to a certain degree because my thirst for knowledge is like too scary, and you know my sleep schedule as it is.
Yeah.
It's I find it to be quite interesting to say the least that um the and I think there's going to be I know we have demographic shifts.
Yeah.
We did but I want to talk about how it's going to affect brokerage overall. Uh and I don't know if we get into that at some point. She has her she has my outline here.
Yes.
So and we're gonna dance around because it's already 5:41, so we don't have a incredible amount of time.
Yeah.
Because it's just we were a little time starved today.
Yeah, it's okay.
I get trapped up in a lot of things, but anyway.
It's Friday.
It's Friday.
But yeah, we can move on to demographic shifts. Do you notice any like trends among millennials?
Yeah.
Like home buyers this year in 2020?
Yeah, they can't afford a house. I mean, is there any trend better than that? It's look. I mean, I think this is a structural issue as a general. Housing affordability is I don't know what's happening. It's we're in a very different, and geez, you're not even millennial and millennials.
No.
Some A lot of millennials are still home with their parents,
Yeah.
and that's one of the studies that were done recently about how many. What you're seeing in terms of demographic is women actually moving out on their own. Women
Before.
are more like single women are purchasing homes at a higher rate than single men for the first time in history. So,
Hmm.
like I think in the last 7 years, this was a trend that was developing through the 2000s. But um, that's kind of shaped the work environments that we've lived in. And where I do think where we've kind of went from a physical economy to um, a more intellectual economy. Uh, I think some of the times what happens is that, and you see this playing out often, is that a lot of the sad part is a lot of men are very good use of hands, so they're used to building things, and those things have kind of waned away
Hmm.
and kind of not been as a prominent role in the sphere of American culture. Is kind of went to a more, and obviously you get into the politics of this, which I'm not going to do, but it's what we have seen is the biggest demographic shift has been single women purchasing homes at a faster and faster clip. A lot of them are now
Hmm.
breadwinners in the households, and it's just a change of in how we do things as far as a society.
That's
Um,
interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah, single women
Where.
are really really changing the future of housing. But as far as millennials themselves, I think among new entrants into the market, they've had the most difficult time. Gen Z really hasn't started yet, and
Mm-hmm.
you just know it's not this is a very complicated subject because there's so much nuance to it that you could get into like uh, just the societal structure of making it accessible as far as earnings and capacity to earn has changed so much. Um, and AI to a large degree is going to impact that. There was another, and while it's not
AI.
AI
How?
major, because well, I actually saw it on TikTok. So
Oh.
they asked people, they did like a street walk and they walked and asked technology people, or they asked people they're like, is AI going to replace your job? And I think about 70% of people says, yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably
Yeah,
70%.
it was insane.
That is crazy.
That they felt like at some point programming was considered to be a top flight job. Not to say they won't be in existence. The question is, we had like lower level programming, meaning like local businesses need websites and they need programs that help that. Now AI can make these things in minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's so easy for like data people, like coding and stuff like that.
didn't you
They could do.
try your hand at coding at one time?
Yeah, I had to take a couple of classes in college.
You said and she liked it. She
I
said.
did like it, but it was super hard. So I was like, I can't.
We don't want anything too hard,
No.
but yeah. So yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. It's and we were talking about earlier about the influencer and how like now people are being like influencers on Instagram.
Yeah, there's a lot of influencers out there
And some
now.
of the advice you may be taking may not actually be a human being. So I don't know what to think about that. What's your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, there's.
It's definitely something, but AI is changing the structure of the business.
Mm-hmm.
But before we're coming to the tail end here. I want to talk about how structurally is changing the business model for brokerages.
Ooh, let's
And
get
I
into it.
recently heard that there's a merger talks between Berkshire Hathaway and I think it was Compass Field. This is okay. And for all the agents out there, this is one on to you. Is that you think that this is, um, uh, and we deal with this all the time. Like, where do we go from here? In terms of, like, does the brokerage industry change? Yes, for a lot of people it is, especially for the technology side. So, and the one fortunate thing that I think I've been able to attain in the time that I've been doing this is that a lot of times as an agency, you have to really look at the forward thinkingness of the agency, how quickly they are in adapting technology. The one thing about being small like we are, we're not small, but
Mm-hmm.
we're moderate, medium size. But the big thing is where we're like, it's your agility that makes the difference in the failure or success of the brokerage. And I think one of the things that we see obviously, how quickly and how adaptable organizations are to addressing technology needs. And I hate to say this, the problem is that what I see moving into the brokerage business is that the hyper local nature of brokerages could be influenced a great deal and be very helpful, because I do think that this sometimes an over centralized structure does not allow for agility in the marketplace.
Okay.
So, meaning, uh, it's almost like too big to move fast enough to address everything in a quick and meaningful way. And I do think what's happening is that, with the new world that we're in, as technology advances, less and less people are going to be required to do the brokerage business to begin with. And I do think that to a certain degree, um, if organizational structures do not understand what technology is shaping the future, they're going to have a hard time. Most of the places you will see will eventually go out, of business or retire, and I've seen this happen quite frequently. And like, as an organization, you say, oh, nobody can compete with the big companies. I don't think that's the case, because
Mm-hmm.
we're not that big, and we have 3 million people a month.
Yeah.
We just broke a record on Facebook for over 100. We're now bursting in. I think we have 2 pages and we run the group.
Mm-hmm.
And one page is over 140,000, 126,000. But I think it's going to be probably about, by the end of this month, it'll be over 200,000.
Yeah.
And the ability to reach and use these technologies, and they take time to build. And this is why, if you're in the idea that you could get this done, and this is where agents get it wrong, okay, and is that these things are time consuming, long. While the technology is fast, the structure of how you move has got to be established, meaning the infrastructure, the building itself needs to be in place. So I see a lot of agents, they go, oh, well, do this great thing social media wise. Yeah, some people are going to be very successful at it. 95 to 99% of them aren't. They're just not, because how much time could you give somebody to allocate? And I could tell you how many hours are just allocated here. It's ridiculous, but it's
Yeah.
we spend but it's important to the seller that sellers that we are acclimating to their needs, because it's changing, your strategy. And it's not just a big is this could be done at a very hyper local level. I mean, you see some agents are great at it. The biggest thing that I think I try to do here as an agency is to make sure that the structure of the agency is supportive, in the sense that many people may not be able to attain those type of characteristics, or they don't have the personality characteristics of that time. We're able to leverage our platforms to help them advance themselves, in to help their client be more successful. And we've done studies on this, and it's proven. So what you want to do is allow, companies who have leverage in the marketplace already. Not, I hate to say this, it can't be on a grand scale. There's no way a big centralized company is going to be able to utilize YouTube in a way that's going to be meaningful for your clients. Like you know, imagine like we obviously put our videos up on YouTube, right?
Yes.
Picture like a single company with like 350 agents and like there's 20 uploads to do in a day. Just think of the infrastructure
Yeah.
requirements that it's not even conducive to the formulas of algorithm that really make sense. That it wouldn't even get the type of reach that you would need or be required to advance themselves. And what we do here is we leverage. Fortunately, we've been at this for a very long time.
Yes.
You have to really change the way you do business. And I see people changing hats, and this place is going to do it better here, and this one. That. Technology. Bottom line is sitting down with somebody and saying to them, "Oh, this, I hear it. We listen to a lot of words. The words sound great. Everybody can be sold something. It's what you see is what matters." And I do think that at the end of the day, my favorite word at the end of the day.
Yes.
I gotta
You
lose that.
do.
That's my 2025 resolution.
Why?
But when it comes down to it, let's use that instead. You have to analyze what exactly they're saying, because what happens with people is they get caught up in the idea that, and I see it all the time. Look, I hear it, you see it. It's like, what do we do for what does this place do for me? And I get that to a certain degree. And I even in terms of like, over recruiting is a problem. Too many people, you can't. Infrastructure has to. I always said this, and it's always been my rule of thumb. The flaws need to support the structure. That doesn't mean everybody's going to be successful in that structure, but it does mean that the attention that's required to make them as successful as possible in that structure is there. So you have to understand that what your clients want have to align with what you're seeing, and stop thinking it from the sense of how much exposure I get, how much exposure. The bottom line is how much exposure does your interest get in keeping you relevant? Because one thing that'll happen is two people will be funded differently, because as independent contractors, as most people are, there's a whole bunch of fees and things associated with what they're doing, right? You have fees, and some agents are better capitalized because as much as we want to say, oh, this one's at this place and it's a big national company, the bottom line is it comes down to the individual's capacity to fund their operation. It's not even the operate. Yeah, okay. So and for stating for the record, I don't want to use names, but you know, they're not going to get the same service. One of the things, the most challenging things in the real estate business is creating a consistent level of service that every client, no matter who's being used, sees the same result. Obviously, the broker owns the listing, right? We know when an agent goes out, the broker owns the listing. You sign the market agreement with the broker's ability to market the property, not the agent's. And it's like, well, where's the foot? Where do you put the foot in this? Where, like, what's their role in that? And these are questions that, like, they kind of get left off the table, but they are something that should be addressed as part of the larger interest of their consumer, because it does need to be leveraged in a way that matters for the people they're working for. And sometimes people get caught up on what's working for, not to say that it's not working for an individual as well. There's plenty of avenues for that, but the first priority is obviously making sure the service quotient for the people you're handling is actually there. We don't like to direct people to like a third party website to find what they're looking for from something from our agency. It's not something we're accustomed to doing. I've never, in the time that I've done this, says, "Oh, go check out some other site to go find your house and then let me know." I try to do it in a way, because where's our service quotient? When we have to explain service, we have to explain why they should be using us, not pointing them down the road and saying, "Oh, go use that," and then get back to me.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, our thing is also to build awareness around a particular property, and it's something that agents need to question Anytime, like, because I know there's a lot of agents right now very frustrated. Look, you're down to 1995 numbers. Eh, It's not going to be easy. The question is who's going to make it better for you? And if you don't understand the nuances of what that should look like, DM me because I'll tell you it should look like a certain way. And fortunately, like we've had a lot of successful new producers, right? I mean, you had Alana when Rookie of the Year. It didn't come from some big.
Yeah.
She bought into the philosophy, right? She was given I said, you follow this philosophy, we'll take care of the rest. You just need to focus on this.
Yeah.
You focus on that. We're suited to do this, and it works. It works in such a great way that the success level and the success quotient of the agent is now, because at one time that wasn't even possible, right? I mean, not that she's experienced now. I'm not saying that she's inexperienced. She's experienced by far.
Mm-hmm.
But and then you have new agents. Obviously, Gabby, she came in. She's already doing some amazing things. Like, but the big thing is it's working with a synergistic strategy to move you forward. And I don't think that in every case that's what you're seeing. And you have to really question like what this is supposed to look like to each and individual person. So I'm gonna take that pen from her.
My pen is dead.
She's trying to.
It's not.
We're running out of the other blue pens because the agents steal them because they're nice. They're nice to write with.
Yeah, my pen is. Oh, and it just
that means it's time to go.
That
means the end of the segment. But if you have a question, obviously we're already close to that time. If you have a question, and I think there's plenty of questions to go around, and I think we could probably have a discussion like this for a longer time. Mm-hmm. Question everything. Question everything. What it looks like is what it is. So you should always check out, like, I could tell you a million things. The biggest thing is like I could point to a direction. I could hand you the stat sheet. I could not stat sheet in terms of like what we're providing. I'm not going to give you a stat sheet on like, okay, we sold everything. We sold 500 houses. When there's so much nuance to selling 500 houses, it's more than selling 500 houses. There's sales to list price ratio. How is the business obtained? These things will make it easier, or it's not impossible. It's not rocket science to sell a house at any price. It's the thing is to achieve the highest one possible. So these are things like, how do you do that? The metrics we have support what we do, and we work hard on that. So, that's where I'll kind of leave it. This is probably something I'll discuss. So I have somebody else on in the office who experienced this firsthand.
Yes.
Drag them in and talk about that experience because I think that's important.
Yeah.
All right. And there goes my phone, 6 o'clock. And that means it's the whistle is blowing here.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week with the Jersey stats.
Yes.
And where can they follow us?
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, Nextdoor, LinkedIn, Threads.
And you get to see that.
That's
something AI will not replicate at all. We promise you that. No. But anyway, you have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Yes. Bye, guys.